Today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite things, audiobooks, and specifically audiobook narrators. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Andy. I hope you're all doing really well. I'm going to be doing a little two-part series. This is part one, which is focusing on the specific voice actors or performers, and then part two is going to be about books that I think are a really, really unique or wonderful audiobook experience. So I want to first say that I am a huge audiobook listener. It's probably my favorite way to read. I love that audiobooks can go with you wherever you're going and whatever you're doing. I like that I can read audiobooks when I'm walking or exercising or driving or cleaning. I mean, audiobooks literally can just join you with whatever you're doing, and I like that it kind of complements my busy life. So it just makes reading a little bit more accessible for me, and I think for other people too. I also think that audiobooks are fantastic because it engages more senses, so it can create an even more immersive reading experience. And I definitely think there are audiobook narrators that I adore, and then there's audiobook narrators that I cannot stand. And I know that for many people, a big potential turnoff is the audiobook narrator. Like, what if I can't stand their character voices, or I don't like their breathing, or I don't like how they sound in general? And I think that that can really ruin a reading experience and potentially ruin a story. So I'm hoping that through this little series, I'll be able to give you all some really good recommendations on audiobook narrators to keep an eye out for. And in part two, different audiobooks that I think are a particularly fantastic listening and reading experience. So on this list, I've got a few honorable mentions, and then I have 5 favorite audiobook narrators. So we'll start with the honorable mentions. The first honorable mention is Bahni Turpin, and she's sort of a recent discovery for me as far as audiobook narrators go. She is the narrator for You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwaeke Emezi. I thought she was fantastic. I loved her character voices. She really created an easy listening experience. She also was the narrator for Transcendent Kingdom by Yaa Gyasi. Both of those books I loved, and I think the audiobook narrator, the voice actor, made it an even better reading and listening experience. The other 2 honorable mentions are both male voice actors, and I really struggle finding male audiobook narrators that I enjoy because I don't always feel like they do a good job with their female characters. These are 2 voice actors who I've really enjoyed my overall listening experience with them, but in particular, I think they do a good job with the male and female characters, and that's Michael Page. And I recently discovered him by listening to The Lives of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. I think his voice in particular was really good for this series. It really supported kind of the humor and the overall just like vibe of the book, and I thought it was so good. His narration in particular made the first 200 pages, which were a bit of a slog to get through, a little bit more tolerable, and I think helped me stay engaged and like push through the slow beginning. And then the other audiobook narrator that I really like is Tim Gerard Reynolds, and he is the audiobook narrator for the Rhaenyra Revelation series by Michael J. Sullivan. And again, for similar reasons, I think he did such a good job creating the atmosphere of that series, and I think he did a really good job with the female characters too. Now, my 5th favorite audiobook narrator is Lauren Fortgang, and she is well known for doing a lot of the Leigh Bardugo books, so like the Shadow and Bone series and Six of Crows. She also did the Bridge Kingdom series by Danielle L. Jensen. Now, I know in Six of Crows, she's just one of the voice actors. That is a whole cast of actors that do that series in particular, but I've always felt like I looked forward to her chapters the most. I felt like her performance was the easiest to listen to. It felt the most authentic and the most effortless. I loved her distinct character voices. Yeah, it was a really good fit for that series in particular and for the Bridge Kingdom series. I really, really enjoyed her in both of those performances. My fourth favorite audiobook narrator is Mary Jane Wells, and she does a lot of the historical romances that I really enjoy. She's done a ton of the Tessa Dare books. She's done some Sarah MacLean books. And then recently she was the audiobook narrator for the Ravenels series by Lisa Kleypas that really got me through when I was sick with COVID. I felt like at a time where I was so tired and so miserable, her voice was really comforting and it was really easy to listen to, and it really kept me engaged kind of despite all these possible barriers of being really, really sick. So I love her. I feel like anytime I see an historical romance is performed by her, I get really excited and I just know that I'm gonna probably enjoy it. My third favorite audiobook narrator is Amani Parks, and she's probably my favorite YA audiobook narrator. I think she does such a good job of representing like the character's age, but not in a way that sounds immature or too young, but she definitely captures that essence and that energy really, really well. She's done Root Magic by Eden Royce. She did Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston. And I think she did Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. I loved all of those books. I thought her performance really elevated my reading experience. So I highly recommend her, especially if you see her name pop up in some of those YA contemporary fiction, but also those fantasy stories. Now, my second favorite audiobook narrator has a really, really special place in my heart. That is the wonderful Davina Porter. I fell in love with her while I was listening to and reading the Outlander series. And I think, first of all, if you don't know, those books are so chunky. Each of those audiobooks is like 35, maybe 40 hours long, really long listening time. And so the fact that Davina Porter's voice is honestly like sheer perfection. It is like a warm hug. It's smooth. She has really, really good distinct character voices, and all of her European accents, like her British accent, her Irish accent, her Scottish accent, even her American accent, was so authentic and so good. And I think it made reading and listening to that series in particular so enjoyable. I mean, I feel like I even convinced my mom to listen to those books because she's such a good audio narrator. I'm obsessed with her. She really was my first love. That series in particular is sort of when I really became addicted to audiobooks and when I really started to feel that the listening experience could really captivate me in a way that sometimes reading a physical book or an ebook doesn't. If you haven't read Outlander, I wouldn't read the physical books. I would listen to the audiobooks. They are stellar. It's a really, really, really wonderful listening experience. I can't recommend it enough. Now, my favorite audiobook narrator is quite the prolific voice actor, and I actually think she's written a few books as well, and that is the infamous Julia Whelan. And she has narrated some of my favorite stories, especially some of my favorite contemporary romances. She's done, I think, all of the Emily Henry books. She's done all or several of the Taylor Jenkins Reid books. And recently I listened to her in Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, which is one of my favorite romance reads of this year so far. Julia Whelan is probably the most reliable audiobook narrator I've ever come across. I feel like not only has she done like 1,000 books, but I just know that she is gonna tell the story and tell it really well in a way that really immerses me in the story, in the setting, in the characters' minds. It's really easy listening. Any story that she does, I probably end up liking more than if I had just read it by myself because again, her performance is so good. So she is the audiobook narrator for many, many, many stories. I'm sure some of them you might have already listened to. She's an excellent voice actor. I could gush about her for days. So she is by far my favorite audiobook narrator. I love everything that she does, and I think you all will like her too. So that's it. Those are my favorite audiobook narrators, some of my favorite voice actors. I think they do such a good job of putting you in this story, immersing you in different worlds and different lived experiences, and they can do no wrong. I really hope that this helps guide your audiobook journey. If you have any favorite audiobook narrators that I didn't include on this list, please leave them down below. I'm always in the market for a new favorite voice actor or audiobook narrator that I can kind of keep an eye out for. So thank you all for making it this far, for joining me as I gush about some of my favorite audiobook narrators. And that's it for this one. I will see you in part 2, where I talk about my favorite audiobooks. I had a really good time. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, wherever and whenever you are. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.